Gamer's Garage.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on. And I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Hold on. I don't know the words.
I'm speechless.
Can't stop the train, baby. Whoa!
Everybody, for the 24th round of the Losers Bracket, I have the honor of introducing this. I want to thank the Gamers Garage for hosting this as always, and I want to thank the VV community for listening because today we have an exciting show. We're going to talk about the Electronic Sports World Cup where Smokey Prog just took third. We'll talk about Mr. Paradise, who just was wined and dined by MTV in Atlantic City for the Total Rock Total Rewards event that happened this July 4th weekend. We're going to talk about Onlive, what it means to have it, how the technology is working, and kind of postulate the future. We'll also, in our roundtable section, talk about a caller who wanted to ask us about Virgin Gaming. We'll talk about VV community news. Since we got a lot of positive feedback, it seems popular with everybody that we're doing that news. I'll mention exactly why Focus left, my concerns about the European Console League and why we're not quick to throw any money at it. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the Gears of War tournament. We're going to talk about if it can shape up some of the discussions, and then Spike Mouth is going to be here to help us talk about Ambush and some of the applicants we received for our Halo 3 division. With all of that being said, let's start out with the Electronic Sports World Cup.
As you guys probably know by now, the Electronic Sports World Cup just finished up this past week. Want to give a big shout out to VV Smokey Prog, who ended up taking third overall in the event, taking home a cool $1,500 for his placing. It seemed like history repeated itself, however, as he was knocked out in the semifinals by a Brazilian, just like what happened to him at the WCG Grand Finals last year in China. Lucky Sonic from Brazil ended up taking him out in what I've heard was a pretty good match. In the grand finals of the Guitar Hero portion of the tournament, Bonobi, very, very good French player, ended up taking out Lucky Sonic. So I'd like to congratulate Smokey Prog. He did wonderful. Great job representing us in France. Congratulations, my friend.
I think overall for this thing, I don't know a lot about some of these games that they played there. And, with a World Cup like this for video games, I think it would have been kind of interesting to see a live stream of some of the games to kind of attract more attention to it. Unfortunately, not being able to see the excitement of the teams playing against each other, it kind of dwindled my attention away from it and didn't want to really focus too much until after the results came out. So I think, for the next time, I think they need to work on trying to get the live stream up to actually sit there and watch. Because over here in America, I know that I would have loved to support some of these guys like Justin Wong and stuff, and Smokey Prog as well. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Justin, I think you bring up a really good point about the live stream, but I don't really want to fault ESWC for that. I think it's a big ocean, and streaming is always a challenge. And anyways, what I'm most interested in is, we wanted to make sure that the prize money was guaranteed. There was a letter from a French legal firm, a very, prominent legal firm that said, yes, it is. They pulled off an event at a great location at Disneyland Park there in Paris. Overall, I'm hoping everyone gets paid, and then at the end we can say, this is a success.
There's tons of diversity in these kinds of events like at ESWC that we don't have here in the United States, unfortunately. Our biggest stages in terms of national gaming events are usually either one game at a time, whether it be like Smash Bros. Or Quake, just it's one game for that one platform. Here, however, we have tons of games from different genres like Counter-Strike, Warcraft, Trackmania, Dota, even FIFA 10. We don't have the diversity. It's almost like we're in our own little world here. It's sort of refreshing to see that sort of thing internationally. You can sort of look at all the different competitions going on at the same event. I think it's pretty cool. cool. I've always liked Counter-Strike and Trackmania. I always thought it was pretty cool. So I've been keeping tabs on it. I kept tabs on it. It was a really cool event. I love the diversity overall, though. That was really probably the best thing about it for me.
Yeah, I think one of the things too is that here, I say this often, that in the U.S. we have such a challenge for our attention span. This is labeled as the World Cup, so it's obviously not going to be anything that happens frequently. Outside of the World Cyber Games, we really don't have anything like that. I don't know if I'd necessarily say that there's only one game, but there are definitely major headliners. Clearly Devastation focuses on its fighting community. EVO's obviously about fighters. MLG really showcases Halo. I know ESL in North America is looking at starting up. I read something about their focus, which is going to be 1.6 Spike Live and fantasy football game, I think. I know a lot of people have been working on it, but whether or not we could have an event like this in the U.S., that's really a good question. That's at least one worth asking. But at the end of the day, I'm glad this sort of went off without a hitch. But what I'm more interested in, and I don't want to dismiss the ESWC, Jason, Total Rock Total Rewards, gamers meet MTV's culture. That sounds to me like a challenge for a competitive gamer because MTV is notorious for image, not necessarily substance. Hence why, the MTV Music Awards, the MTV Movie Awards are much more about pop culture than necessarily the art of it all. How is that reflected in this event? What was it like? Talk to me.
Well, you just hit the nail right on the head there, Jerry. The tournament was definitely all about MTV culture. There was a lot more, I guess you could say, to do with the performance side than the actual skill-based side, and that kind of ruffled a few feathers on the event. The scoring for the event was supposed to be 1/3 of your game score, 1/3 performance, and then 1/3 style based on whatever you're wearing on stage. Now, of course, that right there should tell you this wasn't going to be a very competitive event. It was more about who was rocking out. I guess some people called it a costume contest with plastic instruments. And I can't say they wouldn't be too far from the truth. I will say, however, that MTV gave us the best accommodations I could have ever asked for. By far the most I've ever been given on an excursion such as this, on a tournament such as this. We were given free flights, free limos, 5-day, 4-night stay at a very, very nice hotel, 2 VIP parties, including free drinks at one of them. And we also got to play Rock Band 3, which, isn't even coming out for another 4 or 5 months. Lots of accommodations there. It's just rather strange that the worst part of the tournament was the actual tournament itself.
What was in your swag bag?
Oh, swag bags included shirts, hoodies, a copy of the new Rock Band, Green Day Rock Band, 100-watt, $100 Hitmaster amp to amplify your gaming experience while playing Rock Band, 10% off coupon off an Ion drum rocker drum kit, which will come in handy when Rock Band 3 comes out later this year for pro mode drums, since drums are going to now have not just 4 pads but 3 cymbals in the game. There was a ton of things that they gave us for free. Definitely an overabundance of generosity. The judging, however, left quite a bit to be desired.
I know you just said it was style-based and it was also based on sort of performance, meaning not score, which you mentioned was also a category, but sort of how you rocked out, how you got the crowd involved. First of all, who judged this event?
There was different judges on both days. On the first day, Harmonix employee HMX Thrasher was one of the judges, and then also another judge was someone that did a lot of, theater, based out of Las Vegas. Third judge was HMX Drop Slash, who's very well known as a community manager for Harmonix. So these weren't just random people. On the second day, Alex Rogopoulos, who I had the pleasure of meeting, the CEO of Harmonix, was one of the judges. What an amazing guy, by the way. I thanked him in person for taking up the last 4 years of my life by developing Guitar Hero and Rock Band, but I digress. These judges were very focused on, the MTV culture of things. More about the performance, more about the style. To give you a direct example of one of the shortcomings of the event, the very first band to play in the tournament was called Here Comes a New Challenger. 3 absolutely phenomenal pro players were in that band, including former VVV member F4 Phantom. They played the song Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest, which is by far the hardest song choice of the entire day. They gold-starred the song, did some pretty cool things that were, performance-based as well, including their bassist doing a backflip in the middle of the song on the stage. They, however, got low marks because their shirts didn't match color. I kid you not. Their style was what kept them out of the top 4. And that's, you can't make things like that up. The very last band to go for the day actually ended up 3-starring one of the easier songs in the game, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and made the top 4 because their singer, a female, jumped into the crowd and started a mosh pit. That's definitely the makings of something that MTV would love.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to go to an MTV event, at one level I can sort of understand that they're going to want things that are far more fluffy and about style than substance. But to be honest, I'm quite jealous. The limo, the VIPs, I mean, that's not a bad deal.
Not at all. I have to admit, this is the best I've ever been treated at one of these events. And aside from the obvious shortcomings, I would go back in a heartbeat. This is something that I could see myself hoping to go to every year just because of the treatment. This is an event that anybody who plays Rock Band should look at, even if just to go and have a good time. I met so many really cool people. Alex Rogopoulos, like I said before, Sway Calloway, an MTV correspondent, and then, of course, all the amazing, amazing community members of the Rock Band forums, the skilled players at Score Hero, and some absolutely unreal, virtually unknown players. I have to give a really big shout out to the DeLorean Racers, one of the bands that made the top 4. Patrick, their vocalist, one of the coolest guys I've ever met, and they, to give you a little bit of background, Patrick just kind of got into the game. They ended up almost winning the entire event. The guy's a real singer. And their rendition of Under Pressure, the very last song of the entire tournament, left the entire crowd in goosebumps just because of how much emotion he put into it. Afterwards, he walked off the stage crying because he said it was just such a good moment in his life because everyone's cheering him on. We cheered encore and things of that nature. It was such a powerful moment. It's a damn shame that the judges actually, I guess you could say, screwed them out of the title because their first song of the day, they dressed as an 80s band, and apparently that wasn't too hip on the judges.
To be honest, I got goosebumps as you were saying that. That's awesome, and that's the kind of story that you get drawn right into. That's awesome, though.
Yeah. Huge shout out to Patrick. You were absolutely, in my opinion, one of the MVPs of the entire event. Your rendition of Queen and Bowie left goosebumps on all of us. And actually, I'll post a link in the Losers Bracket thread on VVV forums to the actual performance so you can actually watch it. It doesn't do it justice since, watching a video is nothing like being there live, but hearing the crowd chant encore afterwards and hearing the crowd singing along with him, it was just an absolutely amazing moment. Kudos to you guys, DeLorean Racers.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Since you used Under Pressure, I want to move to something that was under a lot of pressure to get launched, and that's the new Onlive, which for those of you who don't know what Onlive is, it's the first introduction to cloud-based gaming. For the first year, it's free. If you were one of the lucky selected, you also got a free game. Everybody said Onlive wouldn't work. Everyone was deeply critical, but what it does do is it allows anyone, regardless of their computer or PC, it really allows them to game. OnLive is like an app. You launch it like you would launch Internet Explorer. It launches, and then immediately you're sort of like on your dashboard. And you can immediately choose a game, and it takes seconds to get in the game. This is lag-free. Me, Exodus, Doomhammer, and M-Dog all were playing some Borderlands. Nobody really lagged out. There wasn't any real problems. So at the end of the day, it works. Now this question is, can they market it and make it successful? Justin, what's been your impression so far?
The moment I got on to test this out was the first day, and the game I decided to try out was a game that I thought was going to have a lot of people playing at one time, so I decided to go with Unreal Tournament 3. Now, I was skeptical kind of at first as well, along with the rest of the people, because, it was a new idea and nobody had really seen it before. But I tried it out. I got on within seconds. And, I'm sitting in the little dashboard, and the first thing I decided to check out was what's called the arena. There's all these, little videos going on, and I was like, well, this is interesting. Clicking on one, it instantly just brings it forward, pops up without a loading screen or anything. And it's a live feed of somebody actually playing, and you can sit there and cheer them on and stuff. And I thought that was really cool, so I was like, okay, well, let's see how this works in-game. So I went into a game, and the first thing I wanted to see was how the graphics, how the lag. There's no lag. Graphics were they weren't the best, obviously, but they were good. It's interesting to see that, because usually, I could play it on Steam or something. There's usually that lag and, headshots won't register, stuff like that. But I was having no problems with any of that. It seemed so remarkable. And it was cool because, there was a situation where I had the sniper rifle and I was sitting there picking people off, getting headshots, and I had like 6 people watching me just popped in and, sending me messages and all this stuff. I thought that was really cool that you can just join in whenever you feel like and just watch somebody play. And that's something new that I haven't really seen before. I thought this is a really good idea, but as Jerry said, it's how they're going to market it.
It's really hard to explain to someone until you've seen it. Because if anybody's ever seen the film Minority Report, Tom Cruise walks up to this, big screen and all of a sudden he's moving images wherever he wants. Onlive is just like that. When I go into the arena, I can see all these people playing. And the really cool part is everything, and I mean everything, is kind of like data-based. So let's say I want to look at people playing Borderlands. I can click on the marketplace, pull up the game Borderlands. When I click on the game, it'll give me tabs for trailers and arena. I can click on arena, and then I can find like the top 5 arena games going on right now in Borderlands. Go into one and spectate. And I mean, this is instantaneous. So like picking up players, or if there were really good competitions, to me, Onlive is a place that would allow people to organize events. And the best part of this, and the thing that I think is so exciting for the potential future, is that it doesn't matter what your PC is. It doesn't matter how much money you spend, because it isn't dependent on your machine. And then I start to think, wow, what if we could open competitive gaming up to anybody? It didn't matter if you had the best PC. It didn't matter if you had the best graphics card. From a point of picking up talent, if I can actually watch someone play and watch the decisions they make, I mean, it's even better than having an online stream, because I get to choose the player I want to watch. Now, if they could get a mainstream title in there, that could change everything. Because now the only thing it's going to be limited on is your internet connection. And even that, to be honest, is such a low requirement that you're not in competitive gaming today if you have a terrible internet. And since the requirement is low, you've now taken all those people who have a very average internet connection, and you've all of a sudden said it doesn't matter if you're on the Mac. It doesn't matter if you have the latest and greatest. You don't have to buy a whole new machine. You can get in and play. We have to figure out how to build this community and market it, because I don't think Onlive can do a lot. I think the challenge is, how do we get the word out and let people know, hey, imagine if you could spectate anybody you wanted. And I think for a lot of people that's very difficult to imagine, to be able to go to a game, go in, and start watching a player. And you can spectate your friends list. So you can choose by game, or you can choose by your friends list. It'll tell you what game they're playing. You can click on it, and bam, you're watching them play. That, to me, is incredible. And we really haven't talked about Onlive a lot, because I wanted to test it. I'm looking for the mistake, the error, and the only thing that I can say right now is it doesn't have enough games, and it doesn't have enough games that are highly competitive. And if they work on this within a year or 2 years, cloud-based gaming may rule the day. And if cloud-based gaming rules the day, then I suspect this will change everything. But the question is, can they get enough subscribers to keep growing their game list and make sure that the investors are interested? Now, the one thing that goes on their side is they've developed this for 7 years. And when you have partners who are going to stick with you for 7 years, it's a really good indicator that they're willing to hang around for a while longer. You look at the people that are running it, you've got some of the top people in the industry. So I think that there's a lot of good stuff out there.
You know what else I think is really good is that once they come out with this micro console that they have in the works, it's going to increase the population even more, because that means people won't need a computer to play anymore. It'll just take this little micro console and their controller, and you hook it up to your TV, and people will be, it'll be just like they were on a PC. I think that's going to attract a lot more people, and the people that I've told about it have already gone, signed up, and are starting to play because they've seen me play, and they see what it's like, and they just instantly fell in love with it.
I'm just wondering, because I don't have OnLive myself, and this is something that I saw was a common inquiry for a lot of people before it came out. But is it a good replacement? Is the experience enough to warrant me going into it instead of keeping my physical gaming products? Is it enough? Is the experience good enough for me to really change how I play my games?
I think you asked a great question. I think that's the challenge. I'm going to play where my friends are, and I'm going to play the games I want to play. And right now, what OnLive has. They've got some great games coming out, but for the hardcore gamers, we've already got those games on Steam. What's got to happen is OnLive has got to get to the point where it's distributing games at the same time Steam, GameStop, wherever you're getting your games. But the one thing OnLive does is it destroys the line between console and PC. It doesn't exist. You can play OnLive with your controller. You can play OnLive with your keyboard and mouse. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to say, I don't like OnLive because they don't want to change. But if you fast forward 5 or 10 years and you can game now anywhere, let's say I go on vacation. Let's say I go away to school. Let's say I am in a hotel room somewhere. Anywhere where I have a good enough internet connection, which is only about 5 meg down. That's not a lot. I mean, I've already got, in my home alone, I already average about 30 to 35 down. So I don't think 5 is going to be that difficult. And Comcast is already looking at putting in Chicago alone 100 megabyte down. The evidence to me, to be honest, I'm going to predict this as a winner. I'm going to tell you why. They're giving it away for free for the first year. And then after the, what is it, Justin? Is it like $4.99?
Yeah, it's really dirt cheap.
Yeah, $4.99 a month. They have sales already. Now, I'm not too impressed with the sales. Let me tell you why. July 4th weekend, they have a July 4th sale, 30% off any game. But we're not talking about the latest and greatest games. But what I do think is interesting, they've also arrived at a time that there aren't any major games being launched this second. It's almost like they got a little bit of window. I'm not taking away. I'm very well aware someone's going to scream and say, hey, StarCraft 2 is coming out. Just relax for a second. What I'm saying is when you look at what titles are coming out, OnLive is in a strong position. Everyone isn't flocking to a Gears of War 3. Everyone isn't at this time flocking to Halo Reach. We've got some space. So the big thing is going to be how they market themselves, how quickly they get new games. If they can get the titles in OnLive, that could very well be a boon for everyone. So for those of you listening, if you can get OnLive, get it. You can sign up. You'll get a year free if you're chosen. 3-4 years down the line, this could very much change everything.
All right, well, we got a voicemail recently concerning Virgin Gaming, so we're going to take a listen to that right now.
Hey, what's up? This is Ewok. Just finished listening to the Losers Bracket. Question I have, what do you guys feel about the Virgin Group just recently got into gaming again, and they claim that they're going to give out $1 million worth of prizes within the next year, and they also have challenges that you can send to people for money on virgingaming.com. There are many other sites that have tried this before. I wonder if you guys think that it'll work or it'll fail. Thank you for the awesome shows, and see you later.
First things first, I want to thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for your question. As for what I think about the whole situation, I mean, it's kind of funny asking me about this since, I used to run tournaments at Virgin Megastore when that was still applicable here in the United States, before they went bankrupt. Looking at the mission statement of Virgin Gaming, they say that they're out to change the very nature of console gaming. And who knows, with Richard Branson's pockets behind them, there's always a chance that this could succeed. You're correct in the fact that many people have tried to do this in the past, but to the best of my knowledge, no one with Branson's pocketbook has tried. And that's where I think the difference lies. If this continues to be pushed, I could see it being successful. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in the future with this, and I want to keep a close eye on it. There is a chance it could be successful, but I'm still pretty skeptical.
Yeah, I'm definitely kind of skeptical about this as well. They're doing a lot of Xbox and PS3 games, but, with the amount of money they have backing it, I could see this being successful. They also talk about that they're going to have pro gamers on there and giving lessons and stuff, and what I'm interested to see is how are they going to choose, because they talked about that there's going to be Madden pro players on there. But what if, say, a pro Halo 3 team went on, signed up? Would they be considered an amateur team, or would Virgin Gaming actually call them a pro team? So I'm interested to see how that works. Because if not a lot of people sign up and there's these, amateur players, and they happen to win a tournament and they get called pro, and then, a pro team comes on, signs up, and they're considered amateur, that wouldn't really work out too well. So I'm interested to see how they're going to go about judging the gamers on rather they're pro or amateur.
For me, the lineup of games they have so far has been intriguing for me, to say the least. Considering it's mostly sports, I mean, we have games like Halo 3, obvious ones, but then you have NHL, Fight Night, MLB 10 The Show. It's very sports-oriented. And then you have Mod Nation Racers in there, which is odd. That sort of throws it off for a loop. That's a weird inclusion. Not to say that the lineup is bad in any way. They're still great competitive games, but it's odd how they're doing it. Not all of them are the biggest of competitive titles, and how they're going to show, like Justin said, professional and amateur gamers with games that don't really have that sort of level of play compared to games like Halo. That'll be interesting to see how they do that.
All right, as many of you know, I'm not really a big fan of the structure of wagering in gaming. Basically, in this kind of format, you're betting on games that you're going to win. The second problem is that nobody under the age of 18 can play, and it requires you to use a credit card. They accept PayPal, so I guess you could draw directly from your bank account for PayPal. But I just don't think this format works. I think that in a lot of ways, it's a lot of show, but it's not what North American gamers really want to do. I don't think they want to bet. Right now, I'm on the site, so everybody knows, and I've kind of gone on, and I'm looking at all the games, right? I'm looking at, there are game lobbies. So if you go on the site, you can see how many people are actually in game. And what I did was I sort of took a sample of all the games. If I go to the Halo 3 lobby, for example, there are 9 players in the lobby. So 9 players looking to bet on something. You go to Madden, and you've got 10 players. I look at their tournament list. None are listed yet. So I guess they're clearly going to want to grow the site. My big concern is that do we really want gambling to go on? I just don't know if that's going to hit. If you know someone's the best player, why would you play against them? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me.
As I said earlier, a lot of sites have tried this before, and heck, I remember the whole issue that we had with Cool Runnings back in the day when they were around, where I believe it was The Answer supposedly won all this money on a site and he was under 18. There's definitely some, I guess you could say, legal issues to battle here. And is there any way that they have to prevent this from happening? That's why, yet again, I think the most interesting thing here is that this is being backed by Richard Branson's pocketbook. And if they can find a way to make it work, then yeah, this should be a very interesting endeavor. If not, is there really going to be anything that separates this from all the other attempts, like Gamer Saloon or any of those other sites where you pay to play people?
I don't think so. Like I said, I think if anybody had approached Branson, what they should have done is talked about creating a North American league and get away from this wagering thing. But it's a story that I see many times in many different areas. Branson's really brash. He likes to take risks. I mean, heck, he showed up with E3 with a friggin' Brinks truck and $1 million in cash. He's got all that bravado and stuff. As far as a business choice and actually understanding the way gamers make choices, I'd really be surprised if this took off. All right, everybody, that brings us to our news section. That seems to be very popular, VV Community News. So we're going to start by talking a bit about the Gears of War sort of league of tournaments that's being proposed. The first league we tried, it looks like we bit off more than we could chew. So it didn't quite work the way we wanted. So Perilous said, why don't we try this again? Once again, I saw, some of the worst of the Gears community and this arguing back and forth. Rapture, I know you've been following this a lot. I want you to give us sort of a rundown of where we're at, and then I'll talk about what I think is a fundamental question here.
Well, pretty much it started out a lot about the swaps. One of the biggest changes that happened with the first VV League was that we had different swaps, which obviously differed from the MLG swaps that were used when the game was on the circuit last year. And that came down to what ended up being a lot of the arguments, because a lot of people either were defending the VV swaps or agreeing with the MLG swaps. So when the idea of the League of Tournaments came about, obviously the swaps came up again. People said a lot of the issues with the VV swaps, that because they were so exotic, a lot of people who weren't in VV that didn't know about them, that were mostly Game Battles and MLG players, were turned off by it because they really didn't know it. They had no idea how to play it, and so they wanted to stick with how they knew how to play. Because of this, a huge discussion about it came to a head about what swaps to use. In the end, it seems like, from what I'm seeing right now, everybody just wants to go MLG. One of the things I was pushing for was trying to test out new maps, and unfortunately, the game itself doesn't have a lot of competitively viable maps. A lot like Modern Warfare 2, the maps themselves aren't really built very competitively, other than like what MLG use, and then the flashback maps that are downloadable. So I tried pushing for maps like Stasis and Ruins that really didn't get that far, and I may have stretched it a bit just to try and vary it up with the stage selection, map selection, that is. So as it stands right now, it seems like everybody's really on board with MLG swaps. They want to push that to the side and sort of get on with really the scheduling, which was another issue with the last tournament, and hopefully work out the kinks on that one. So when the League of Tournaments starts up, we don't have that same issue.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do is get the community more involved, because see, at the end of the day, what happens is you either improve the game, because let's face facts, those MLG swaps, to be honest, are a bit dated, or you really improve the game to make it more aggressive. When we first started, we thought we would try that, and the real problem teams are having is finding scrims. So at the end, it's just sort of like, let's use the MLG swaps, which I said I'll back whatever people want to do, that's what we'll do. But my major concern in all of this, and as I watch this really closely, is that sometimes I wonder if the people involved really are going to play, or if they're more interested in just debating. We'll move it forward, we'll give it a trial run, we'll see how it goes. A lot of people would rather have something that, they can draw other players from. But it's really hard, because as soon as we started this, I saw that GB mentality creep in. The kind of negative personal attacks. It's like nobody on GB learns the basic sort of thing that we do in VV. We don't attack someone's person. You attack somebody by the quality of their ideas. If you think their ideas are wrong, you attack them. But you never attack the person. You don't make it personal. Somebody doesn't like the MLG swaps, and someone's like, well, that's because you're a fat loser. Well, sorry, that doesn't work that way, right? It's the same thing if you like the MLG swaps. You don't attack the person, attack the idea. So I'm definitely going to keep the order in the forums as far as making sure that it doesn't get out of hand, but I'm going to take a hands-off approach and let the community decide what settings they want to play with and how it's going to go moving forward. So that's Gears of War. One other thing that I want to talk about is, I've had a ton of teams from the UK. As soon as Focus resigned, they came out of the woodwork. They're like, hey, you don't have a Gears of War team. ECL is coming up. And when I look at the ECL site, I'm not impressed. Focus took the attitude, we've been here for a long time, been loyal to VVV, you can pay for this. And so, we offered them 160. They got pissed. I said, look, I'll give you 200, but I'm not really sold on this. I don't like making promises for events that look this sketchy. And they claim that ECL is going to be the Major League Gaming of the UK. They've got £25,000. It's done by a private investor. And part of me is really skeptical, because the website, to me, looks like crap. There are no sponsors on it. It seems very amateurish. When I questioned them, they immediately put a sponsor banner up. But even when they did, it didn't go to the actual site. It went to a support email for the ECL website. So it really had me confused. So Focus got a little pissy. Dark Angel was like, we were talking, and I was watching the World Cup. And I guess I didn't answer him in enough time, and he posted his resignation letter. And now all these UK teams come to us and are like, hey, you want to have to do it? I don't need any money. We just want to represent the community. We just want to be part of the community. And I just don't want to get involved in ECL. I mean, if the tournament's successful, we'll look at it next time they run it. And then everyone comes to me like, oh, there's not going to be next time. I was like, well, then, it's not that important. It might be important to you, not us. So, for those of you wondering about why Focus left, that's why, as far as my opinion on this console league, I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach. It's not something that interests me. So that turns us to a little bit of Halo news. So, Justin, I noticed we had some Halo teams apply. What can you tell us about the Halo teams?
We'll start off with the one that I'm not too sure about. A team called Ungraceful consists of 4 people from North Carolina. They haven't been to any events yet, and they have no postings on previous tournaments, and not all of them have even applied yet, for that matter. The only thing one of them was able to show was that he's good at riding a dirt bike, but in the end, I think it'd be kind of tough to say rather than they're going to do well, since they haven't been to an MLG. They don't know what it's like. And honestly, I'm not trying to be mean, but don't expect to place well at your first event. That's just how it works. Nobody places well pretty much at their first event. I don't know, I'm kind of skeptical on these guys. I'd have to play with them to see how they are as people and as players, but I'm just not too sure yet. And with the other team that's applied would be Warriors. They just came off this 5th place finish at Columbus, and they did really well. Congrats to them. But, from what you said, Jerry, you wanted to see how they did with interacting with the community. Now, I've noticed that they haven't been posting too much, and they haven't really been on the shout box. Now, I'm not saying my team was good at that either, but when we were trying to apply, we were at least in the shout box. I don't post too much in the forums, but like I said, I'm always in the shout box, so I'm always talking to people, getting to know new people. But what I've been hearing is, Nocturnal Colonel streams on JTV, and and a lot of VVV people have gone to watch. What I've been being told is they've been actually kind of cocky when it's come to applying for the sponsorship. Something that's been told is that they were mentioning the fact that they've pretty much got this in the bag, that since they've placed fifth, who wouldn't want to have the team that just placed fifth? I wouldn't be too quick to judge like that on the Warriors' behalf, because obviously they don't know Jerry too well. And I don't know. I think they're looking too far ahead and they're being a little too cocky about it. And, without being active in the community, it's going to be hard for them to actually get it.
Yeah, that always brings it up to me, something that always sort of like, and here's my minor rant. VV Gaming has a choice. People always seem to think, we're the fit. At any point in time, anybody is purchasable. We could open up our pocketbooks, and as soon as we said we're going to cover everything, people will come and represent us. But we don't do that because we're not interested in having the latest and hottest team. Of course, I haven't met them yet. They are low on their their interactivity on the site. But we want to build a partnership with players, long term. That means where you're showing us how you're going to add value to VV Gaming. I've talked about this in so many ways, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's the same thing that I try to tell the UK players who are like, I don't even want money, just give us the shirts. Sometimes an event is not even worth the shirts. We make very calculated decisions. I had somebody the other day who said, why did you pick up Fino, the Brawl player? And I said, because in that area, Fino can bring VVV to these brawlers who already kind of are familiar with us and get to see that we only don't have to have the top people, that we also grow our community. And this is where I think a lot of people don't understand VV Gaming, right? The old model was have the best players, sit back, and then be known to have the best players. That's not enough. You can't even do that in professional sports, let alone in esports. You've got to engage passionate players who aren't that good, but who can be a part of it. And if you don't do that, you're not going to win. And I consider winning the growth of esports, it becoming more popular, more inclusive, more people being involved. So, yeah, I don't want to prejudge anything, but every time I hear somebody say, you're going to want the number one, no. Why? I mean, what's the point? Plus, sadly, teams break up so often, you got to be really complicated. I think that's why it's easier to get involved in games like, fighting games where there's only one or two, one player primarily. It's mostly singles. You have a few double matches here and there, and I know you do 3v3 in Tekken. But, I mean, why bother when teams change so often? I think that's part of the challenge. And it's unfortunate because games like Gears and Halo to me are phenomenal to watch. And not to say that Counter-Strike doesn't have a great history of that too, but, I mean, look at the last ESWC. I mean, complexity, 5th through 8th, EG is supposed to be the best. Didn't even break top 16. So I mean, at the end of the day, I wish players really understood the business and understood what it is to market your sponsors. Because nobody's going to back a player that doesn't market. And most young people think that just by wearing a shirt, you're adding value. I'm telling you, you're not. Not to VV Gaming. Maybe to some site that's just starting, maybe to somebody who needs their ego rubbed, but not to VVV. It's got to be a partnership. It's got to be about long-term growth. It's got to be about how you're going to help us market our sponsors. Because remember, just as much as we ask you to add value to VV Gaming ultimately has to add value to its sponsors. That's what the business is about.
That just about wraps up another episode of the Losers Bracket. Huge thanks goes out to the Gamers Garage for hosting our show. Want to give a special shout out, as always, to our sponsors, SteelSeries, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, and Custom Ink. We love the VV community. Thank you so much for all your feedback and constant support. Make sure to stop over at thegamersgarage.com. There you can find out all the ways to follow us, including Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, all that jazz. Leave us feedback, call our voicemail, 206-350-7352, or you can email us at mailbag@thegamersgarage.com. Any final shout-outs, ladies? Oh, ladies? What?
Wow, you've got problems. Anyway, I got shout-outs this week. We're going to go to Smokey Prague again. Congratulations on taking third. Jason, way to live it up in Atlantic City. Good job on that. And to all those of you out there that are playing MMOs, had a conversation with somebody, you know who you are, keep playing.
I'd like to give a big shout out to Jason, Dakota, and Jerry. Great job on the podcast as usual. I'd like to give a shout out to all my family and friends, everyone on Ambush, and everyone in the VV community and our sponsors.
I don't have a shout out this week because I gave the best shout out last week of myself, so I apologize to everybody. I know how important it is my shout outs are at the end of every episode, but unfortunately I really don't have it in me to top last week, so I'm sorry about that.
You know what's wrong with you, Dakota? I just realized something. There's some sort of small creature that you remind me of, and I can't quite put my fingers on it. You're kind of a cross between Gollum and some Disney character. And I can't figure out which one. If I can figure out which one, that will really make me happy. I need a Disney character to compare you to. Kind of like somebody that, you know, you've got that Gollum lip smacking. I've always got some precious that I'm playing with. But at the same time, you've got this other thing going on. And I can't put my finger on what it is. I go through the list of the big ones at Disney. It's not Mickey Mouse. You know, it's not Donald Duck. I just can't get to something. It's not necessarily Dumbo. Why did I bring up Dumbo? That's so weird. But anyway, I mean, there's something in there, but I don't know what it is.
I'm calling a cross between Goofy and the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Whoa, I didn't even think to go there.
Hunchback? Wow. Really? Really? The one who dressed up as Lady Gaga? Really?
You know what? Is he almost like the genie in Aladdin, but like only one part of the genie? No, wait, even better. He's like, what's the name of that damn bird in Aladdin?
Iago?
Oh, wow.
Why do you know the name?
Iago?
Why do you know the name?
Is he like our Iago?
Dakota, do me a favor.
What the hell are you guys talking about?
Do me a favor. Since you aren't going to give a shout out, can you at least sing us a song?
I sang you guys a song already.
Sing us a song.
No, I sang Phil Collins already.
Sing it, damn it.
No, I can't do it on the spot. You guys are pressuring me. Okay, I'll do it. Hold on. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Hold on.
You know, I was thinking you were going to do a different song than earlier. You already sang this song earlier.
Don't interrupt me.
On that note,
now I've lost my place.
Have a good week, everyone. Thanks for listening. See you next week.